Isekai.
The Rebirth of the Malicious Empress of Military Lineage. Chapter 42, Challenge Her. One song of Shen Yu made everyone listen as if they were drunk and stupefied. Females that had superior Ken skills would be loved anywhere, and especially so if this female was pretty. At least in front of the male side of the banquet, Grade 1 students were too young, but Grade 2s and 3s youths paid a lot of attention over to this side. Even though Nguyen Wentang, Qin King's beauty was ranked first, but she had a proud temperament, and was not as gentle and pleasing as Shen Yu. This older sister of yours plays exceedingly well. Feng Ning reluctantly said, I do not know where did she hire her Ken teacher. Tomorrow, I will also ask mother to find me a famous Ken teacher for lessons. They were all at a young age, when their desire to compete was the highest. Just like when Shen Miao just became the empress, she took everything with relaxation except for Fu Ziyu heart, where she controlled it tightly. As long as Fu Ziyu gave a good expression to another female, she would start to worry. Moreover, with all the truth and fiction in the inner palace, one would privately trip and backstab others. She had the temperament of returning the grudges that she received immediately, and therefore offended quite many people. Currently, this temperament of hers has not changed, but she would not use methods that would hurt herself. Speaking of which, second young lady of Shen family is a rarely seen beauty with talents. Everyone loves beauty, and Prince Zhu felt amazed by Shen Yu, but he only said, what a pity. Even though others might not have understood what was there to pity, it was impossible for the few princes present to not understand. Shen Yu was born charming with infinite talents, and to have such a beautiful and eloquent person as a partner would perhaps be one of the greatest things in life. Unfortunately, she did not crawl out of the Shen Furin's womb, and was not the daughter of the Shen family's first household, but the third household. Unfortunately, Shen Xin, who had military power in his hands, had such an idiot like Shen Miao for a daughter. Even though she looks a little different today, one's impression was not something that could be changed overnight. They believed that Shen Miao was being guided by someone behind the scenes, and was still the idiot who did not know anything else. After Jiao Yan stepped down from the stage, Pei Lang gradually calmed down. It was his first encounter in this life for such a situation. Even though he did not understand it, he did his utmost to relieve his anxieties. At the moment when he heard Prince Zhou's words, he could not help but look at the purple-clad young lady at the female side of the banquet. She held a chess piece while being immersed in her thoughts. Even though they were separated a distance, and he could not see her eyes, he could feel that those eyes were filled with careful examination and deep intent, as if it was like the time when Shen Miao was looking at him. How could such a person be an idiot? But people would not change overnight unless it was Shen Miao who put on an act of being silly and stupid. Why would she do so? Even someone as intelligent as him could not think of what was going on. The female group of selection ended with a completion of Shen Yu's singing to the moon. Shen Yu naturally had gotten the first rank, but today she did not felt happy because of this, but felt some embarrassment instead. She glanced at Shen Miao, and saw that Shen Miao was engrossed with her chess game, and did not even saw her. Shen Yu knew that Shen Miao had no skills in the 4 scholarly arts, and would have not known anything about chess. To look so serious today, it was only to deliberately pull her face down. Chen Rikayu took note of her expressions, and warned her in a whisper, You have forgotten yourself." Chen Rikayu's expectation for her daughter was that regardless of any situation she must be calm. Whether she was truly calm or acted out, she must always let others see a calm image. When a female had a calm appearance, their temperament would be superior, but, if one was flustered, one would not have the bearings of an aristocratic family. In all fairness, Chen Rikayu's method of teaching females was indeed good, and she did very well. Unfortunately, Shen Yu was still somewhat young, and had yet to experience failure, thus, she did not understand how to endure it silently. Hearing Chen Rikayu's warning, Shen Yu slightly retracted the anger on her face. The servant at her side served her a cup of tea. "May young lady drinks a sip of tea to freshen your throat." Shen Yu took the tea over, and looked at the servant. The servant smiled at her, and Shen Yu understood in her heart before the smile on her face became somewhat real. She said, "It is somewhat warm." "I am very interested in the next challenge category." Because Shen King had gotten the first rank in chess, her mood was much more pleasant as she smiled. This year there will not be any differentiation between genders or grades, so, the challenges should be more intense. It goes without saying that the challenge round was the most anticipated of the three. This was because, in the drawing lots round, one may not draw the best one. In the selection round one will pick their best skill to perform. Thus, in the challenge round, there would always be two people competing against each other on their best abilities. Because females tend to be friendly outwardly, they had to portray an indifferent expression to show that they did not value the results of this round. But, the males were different. Youths would like to compare with others to determine the ranking of one another, and at this age where they were at their most competitive, it would always be the most intense during the yearly challenge round. In this year's challenge round, regardless of female or male, irrespective of grade 2 or 3, all the students could do it together. As long as one wants to challenge another, they could do so. Even though it could be said that males and females could challenge one another, there were most likely no such instances. There were indeed no challenges this year in the literary topics, thus, the highlight fell naturally on the military topics. This practically isolated the possibility for female involvement. Even though there was no shortage of daughters of the military who has martial arts skills, but as compared to their male counterparts, there was a huge variance, and thus, one would not be successful. But, one was surprised to see that from the male side of the banquet, Kai Ling stood up first, and went up the stage. The examiner asked him of what area he was challenging. He pointed to the slip of paper that indicated, arrow shooting, and said, shooting arrows from a distance. It was evident to everyone. This overlord, Kai Lin, was ignorant in literary matters, but, was considered outstanding in military skills, in which his shooting skill was the best as he could shoot his targets every single time, and was even ranked first in last year's academy examinations on arrow shooting. Who was he going to challenge today? In the audience, no one was more outstanding than him in shooting arrows from a distance. Kai Lin craned his neck, and suddenly his hand pointed towards the female side of the banquet. When everyone saw that he was pointing towards the female side of the banquet, and not the male side, they were shocked. When they finally saw clearly who he was pointing at, their jaws dropped, and even discussions came to a halt. He also intentionally loudly shouted out, "I want to challenge her, Shen Miao." That purple-clad young female who was immersed in the chess game raised her head, and looked straight at the person on stage with clear bright eyes. Her expression did not seem to fluctuate, and there were no mistakes in her actions, as if this earth-shattering sentence was just a casual greeting that she needed no answer. Chen Rikyu frowned. She had taught Shen Yu wholeheartedly, but, Shen Miao seemed to be the one to have learned to maintain one's composure instead. In the distant pavilion, the handsome youth who was leisurely drinking tea suddenly spurted it all out, and there was a trace of surprise in his otherwise frivolous expression. "Is that boy from the Kai family crazy?" Shen Miao stood up. On the chess game on the table, the black pieces spread across the entire board, and were approaching her. "The first pawn has been dispatched." She picked up a white piece, and placed it down. The black pieces were swallowed, and she threw them chicly into the bamboo basket. "Accepted," she responded.